What's up, everybody? We're back again. It's episode 297 of the Dad Bod Golf Pod. We took a little break. Now we're back to have some fun, talk a little Ryder Cup, some hot storylines from there, and then just kind of set the tone for the rest of the year, rest of the season. So let's have some fun. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline, the number one sports betting website in the country. Sign up today, get a 50% welcome bonus. Use coupon code BLEAV, BLEAV. Give them $100. They're going to give you 50 back free on top of that to play with. Hopefully you stacked up on the European team in the Ryder Cup with a little plus odds. They were the underdogs, and they absolutely waxed America. So you probably could have got a nice little payday had you bet there. But they got football. You're right in the heart of football season, NFL. Baseball playoffs, tons of stuff you can bet on. If you picked, will the Braves win the division and then lose the first round of the playoffs, that's looking like it could possibly hit. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But anyway,
such a negative Nancy.
I know.
You're fine.
But sign up today, have some fun. Bet online is where the game starts. All right, Ben, we haven't been on in a while. We took a little break. We're working on schedules. I think we got something we might can figure out, have a little fun. But in the meantime, the Ryder Cup has come and gone. America got absolutely plastered. And it was over quick. I feel like there was a little bit of glimmer of hope there maybe middle of the day on Sunday where we made a charge, and you had to win almost every single match, but ultimately, it was just too much. The European team had too much of a lead, and we just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah. I will say this. I'm going to give kudos to somebody from the European team because we've done nothing but bash him, and that is Rory McIlroy. He actually backed it up, and he was the points leader for the Euros. I honestly thought that he would be a wet noodle during this and thought his game was headed that way, and instead it ends up being headed that way. And it was even before he got fired up, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But he seemed to have done well. But you and I said numerous times, on paper, the Americans were the better team. And I guess we should have taken into account that we have not won on foreign soil since 1994. And that probably should have counted for something because they stuck their toe in the ground, man. It just looked bad. I mean, and I honestly – you didn't have this on the rundown. I think Zach Johnson's a terrible captain. The way he didn't put Brooks out there, I guess it was because, as Azinger said when he showed up after that first round, Brooks showed up on the grounds and everybody was in awe of Brooks. The Euros were, the Americans were. He's what you and I talk about alphas. He's an alpha.
Yeah.
And you did not put an alpha out there, and you were 0-4 to start things. So I don't know that he would have made a difference. It may have been 3-1. I don't know. Who knows if his team would have done well. And he may have, he may not have played very well at all. But the way the lineups were made and the way things were going, the number one player in the world had probably the worst 4 days of golf you could ever imagine with Scotty Scheffler. I mean, he everybody keeps talking about the captain's picks not showing up. How about the guys that qualified not showing up?
Yeah.
So overall, it was embarrassing to watch.
So my thing with Zach Johnson is not so much like the lineups and things like that. It's just like us. He just doesn't excite you. So if he doesn't excite like me and you and the average guy, why are we surprised that like 9 of the 12 dudes like didn't even play in a competitive tournament, weren't necessarily fired up to play for him, weren't excited to go play in the Ryder Cup? I think Justin Thomas was one of the only guys that played in an actual tournament before leading up, like for 5 weeks. Like a lot of the dudes just took 5 weeks off. I think didn't Xander Schauffele like almost get booted for not fulfilling his contract? I mean, there was something about him not even barely participating in anything that was big. And then your captains, not your captains, your auto qualifying picks just weren't at their top of their game. Like, I think we need to relook at this system. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's gotta be just because you won a tournament like way like 6 months ago, that almost
Yes.
auto catapults you in, like Brian Harmon and Wyndham Clark. Like those guys won like 6 months ago, and then
Yeah.
now they're catapulted, up in there. I don't know. I'm very disappointed. I don't get it. I don't really get, why. I know there's not a ton of money on the line, if anything, other than just like maybe sponsorships deals and things like that. But like, how do you not get fired up to go play? Like to go play? Why do you only get fired up when it's in America? Like they said mean things. Like get over yourself. What do you think is going to happen at Bethpage next year? Or not
Oh my
next year, in
gosh.
2 years. It'll be an absolute madhouse. Like the New
Yeah.
York's going to go nuts and we'll be fired up to play and probably win. But I just don't know that. I mean, I want to know what goes into the picking the captains process. Because I think it should just be Tiger Woods until he just doesn't want to do it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, why are we having to rotate it and give participation trophies to everybody? Like, I don't really get it. Zach, it's just not very inspiring.
There's a couple of things that I think they need to change. Number one, that rotating captain thing. Because you still got the same, because the captain gets to pick the assistant captains, right? Because Freddie Couples has been an assistant captain for dating back to when he quit playing, I think.
Yeah.
So he's an assistant captain every year. So why can't we just keep the captain that way? If a captain's successful, why does he not get to keep doing it? Is that a rule?
I don't know.
And like you just said, you let off with it. And we've said this numerous times. Just make all 12 of them a captain's pick. Like take the 12 best golfers, the hottest golfers that are playing right now, and that's your team. Because the fact that you take the scoring that's over 2 years, let's just say, the prime example, Will Zalatoris. Bro, he was in the top 20, and I hadn't seen him play in a golf tournament in forever.
Yeah.
And he could have been a captain's pick because he finished in the top 20 in points. So he's somebody that we could have thrown out there. Not that that would have been a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what's flawed with the system. The fact that a guy that you and I haven't even seen play is up there in the top 20 with an opportunity to be a captain's pick. So make them all captain's picks. If you got a guy that comes on, I mean, Lucas Glover, we sat there and we talked about how, he had not done enough to get there, but he was one of the hottest golfers coming in the end of the season. So why do you not put sweaty Lucas over there in some mild temperatures, and maybe he plays even better when he's comfortable and he's not sweating balls off, left and right. So
Exactly.
It's frustrating that it seems like that maybe the Europeans, the way they do their qualification system is better than the Americans, because Americans just money only. Like if you make the most money, you get picked. You're going to be but with the Europeans, they've got this way of picking,
world
that way of,
points, and
yeah,
world points and European tour points and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like you only had 4 auto qualifiers, and then after that, they just started kind of randomly kind of falling into place based on a point system. So, and I get that they say, well, you can't do that with the Americans because Americans don't play in those tournaments. Well, then just make it 12 captain's picks.
Seriously. Just let it be the good old boy club.
I mean, see, and I get that. I get why people say they don't, because they say, well, Justin Thomas got picked because it was a good old boy club. I still say he's one of the ones that's fired up to play. Like he's the type guy you want on your team. So I don't begrudge that pick. But if anything,
he played really well too, for the most part.
Yeah, the fact that he played well, and then you got Scotty Scheffler, who's ranked #1 in the world, and he didn't show up.
He's having like legitimate putting issues. Like,
yeah, he's got the yips.
He's got legitimate issues. Like, why do you have to just take him? Like, if they're having problems, that's the part. That's the part that I just don't get. But I mean, that's part of the rules. I just don't think they're fired. I just don't think for whatever reason we just don't get fired up for the Ryder Cup like they do. And and then we do, and then, I want to talk about before we talk about the Rory situation, let's talk about that next, but let's give a shout out to Bad Birdie Golf. Guys, we talk about them. We believe in it. We wear it. They just released their fall line. They got pullovers. They got a couple hoodies. They got some some warm clothing you can wear if you don't want to wear. They got just the golf stuff all the time. They actually have like some nice sweater type material stuff that you can wear. New hats, new just all kind of stuff. So need to check them out. They're great. You can save is it 15%? I think
Yes.
15% off every single order. Just use coupon code DADS, DADS, like dads plural, 15 to take 15% off your order. And you can use that on everything. You can use that on, you can use it over and over again. It's not like it just goes away one time. So
Yeah.
So check them out, show them some love. Bad Birdie Golf. All right. So there's an incident that happened, which I think it kind of like it kind of blew my mind that this was even be a thing at this point in time because we're getting beat so bad. But I believe it was Patrick Cantlay, and who was his partner?
Was it Shuffley at the time?
I think it was Shoffley. It doesn't really matter. It was towards the end of the day on Friday. And they're playing Rory and his partner, and Patrick Cantlay hits a putt to basically win the match or make it to where Rory had to make a really, really long putt to even like tie or something like that. But anyway, Joey LaCava is obviously, Tiger's old caddy that went through everything with Tiger, and now he's on Cantlay's bag. And he does this like really weird celebration thing where he's taking his hat off and he's waving it for a really, really long time, like mega, mega long time. And Rory kind of just loses it. And I don't really understand, like, if that's me, I'm laughing and going, look at the scoreboard type thing. But Rory just absolutely loses it, tries to fight him in the parking lot, like ready to just throw blows. He was going nuts. And, on one side, I'm like, I don't really get what Joey was trying to prove there. But on the flip side, it's freaking Joey LaCava. He can do whatever the heck he wants to.
Yeah.
Like Rory, just say scoreboard, just point at him and laugh, like make fun of him. Like, ah, ha, ha, like you're getting your tail kicked and you're happy about 1 point and you're down 100. Like, what are we doing right now? You're embarrassing yourself. But again, I feel like Rory came off looking like, Rory typically does. But what's your thoughts?
First off, I'm with you on the fact that they're getting their tails whipped. So quit taunting the team. That's like looking up at the scoreboard of a football game and you're down 34-0 and you get a first down and you get up and you go, first down. It's like,
exactly
okay,
like that.
Get your butt back in the huddle and run another play. And same thing with this. Now, it's because they made a big deal out of Cantlay's hat. Why isn't he wearing a hat? Nobody said anything about Rory not wearing a hat, but everybody had a big deal about it, and they said it had to do with sponsorship. Turns out that Cantlay's just got a fat head.
He's
and
never
none of the
hats.
hats. They didn't fit him. Like he said, apparently, not to throw him under the bus, just in case they want to be a sponsor here, but apparently Polo does not make a hat that fits Patrick Cantlay. So unless they go with a bigger noggin maker, then he's not going to be able to wear the hats that Polo provides to the American team. Which also, by the way, side note, I thought it was hilarious that Justin Thomas was wearing Polo again after that big ouster a little bit earlier. But I thought that was ironic. But anyway, so they're, the crowd's been talking about Cantlay not wearing the hat, and they're shaking their hat and all that. But then after he makes the putt, LaCava does that. Now, first off, the first thing that Rory said, which was a P move in my opinion, is he goes, he was in my line. Okay.
It was nowhere near his line.
It was they even circled it and showed where the hole was, where you were reading your putt from. He wasn't even in your through line. He wasn't in your line. As a matter of fact, I think from where he was shaking his hat, he was actually behind you and to your back. So you wouldn't even seen him in the first place if you hadn't gone to reread your putt. So that was a P move in my opinion. Then come to find out, you mentioned yelling in the parking lot. LaCava wasn't in the parking lot, Kyle. He was yelling at Bones, and even Rory said Bones just happened to be the guy walking out of the hotel or walking out of the facility at that time. So I thought I'd just bend his ear. And I'm like, so you're not even yelling at the guy that did it. Like, you don't even have the balls to wait for the guy to come outside and say something to his face. You're yelling at a caddy that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And let's just call it what it is. Bones seems like a nice guy. I mean, he left Phil because Phil was the dirtbag, not because Bones was the dirtbag.
Bones is like 6'4" too. So like I don't know if Rory wanted none of that. Like
and from Louisiana, like he will whip his ass.
Yeah, Rory wouldn't be able to get into the body because of the reach that
Yeah.
that Bones had. So yeah, that was a really weird like outburst from a really weird flex from Joey, and then just a terrible response from Rory. But that was, hey, that's the kind of
Why have we not gotten a comment from Tiger about that? Why is nobody? He's been out and about. He's had his son's tournaments. He's had plenty of opportunity for somebody to say, "Hey, what do you think about Joey and his antics on 18?" And I would love that because he knows him better than anybody. Why did we not get a comment from Freddie about that? He was Freddie's caddy for the longest time. Nobody asked Freddie about it. Like the journalists over there they dropped the ball on this as far as getting us some answers, man. Yeah. There was plenty of chances to find out what the reasoning behind that was. Yep. So drama as always. Rory thinking somebody's out to get him again. Joey was doing that more towards the crowd than anything. As you said, the simple thing would have been Rory just to go look at the score and just go putt your putt and move on.
Or be fired up about that in like a major. Like, how about that, Rory? Let's just be fired up in general so you can actually live up to the hype of how good you are in a major golf tournament. Like, let's just
try. Why don't you try showing up at Augusta and yelling at somebody? How about that?
Instead of just saying I've had a pretty good career so far. Like how about let's just say it's not good enough and be fiery and go, put the pedal to the metal in just like a normal tournament. But,
right.
Whatever. Last thing, Max Homa. I know some people were probably, I think he was a captain's pick. I'm pretty sure he was a captain's pick. I don't know that he auto qualified. Is that right? He was one that people was borderline, and people were like, I don't know. This is his first deal. He was an auto qualifier. He was fifth.
Yeah.
But he just goes out and just dominates. The chip walk in. I still haven't quite figured that whole scenario out yet, because there's walk-ins and then there's what he did there. Like, they joke Tiger in the President's Cup where he walked the putt in, and there's like the video edits where it gets longer and longer each time. Max is chipping, and when the ball hits the green, I mean, it's still got 25, 30 feet to roll into the hole. When he chips the ball and it hits the green, he's walking to his playing partner to shake his hand because he knows it's going in, and it goes in. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe if he knew he just got it in, they tied, and then they won anyway. I don't know exactly. Surely he didn't just think that was going in. Like he didn't think he made that, right? Like
I think he just thought he had I just think he thought he'd hit it to gimme range. Like he knew where it landed by the speed. It was just going to nestle up. So it was a gimme. It was going to be a conceded putt regardless.
Yeah.
However, it just happened to go in, so it looked really good.
So that's him. That's another good. I think he was like 3-0-1. And then you got how well he played at the President's Cup. Is this some new young guy that you can build around that's going to be hot, who gets emotional and wants to play in these types of events and plays hard? He's a bright spot moving forward, I feel like. And he's just
as you said, 3-0-1. He had 3.5 points. He beat everybody on the European team except for Rory. Rory had 4 total points.
Yeah.
So, he's a guy that at the end, to hear his story, his interviews of he had to have a putt at the end in order to extend the entire thing. And he had to do this after he had to take a drop take an unplayable out of the rough behind the bunker. And even everybody said, what is he doing? Like he should try to at least get it on the green and make a putt, or at least 2 putt. But he didn't have a swing. And his caddy, hear him tell the story, the last hole he played where he secured that point for the Americans to extend it, keep going. He said, my caddy talked me into it. He said, we walked up and we looked at it. He looked at me. He said, we're going to drop it right here. You're going to hit it down there within 10 feet and you're going to make a putt. And that's exactly what he did. And so he's coachable, great team guy, represents the Americans well. And he was one of the few that actually showed up. I mean, Homa with 3.5 points, Cantlay with 2, and Brian Harmon with 2, and everybody else was below 2 points, which just sucks. Ricky, 0 for for the weekend.
Ooh.
So it was like Ricky didn't even show up. And so, I mean, I know they can say, and hey, I was pro Ricky. You heard me saying, got to have Ricky in there. He's been playing well at the end of the year, but Ofer, and I mean, no points to show. That's absolutely awful. I mean, same thing. Scheffler with one, Burns with one, Jordan with one, Xander with one. Xander had his stuff off the course that they were dealing with. So I say they got to get with, I don't know if the PGA Tour, RNA, and everybody's got to come to a decision. It's probably not going to happen before the next Ryder Cup. Kyle, they got to change the way they pick these players.
Yeah.
And I know it's easy to say because the Americans got their tail whipped, so it's good to say that now. But even if the Americans would have won, I still think it should just be 12. I don't know if it's even captains. Maybe you let peers vote on it. Maybe some guys are going, hey, this dude's playing well. You need this guy on the team.
Yeah.
Like, because they all want to be on the team. Every one of them. You could have talked to the guy that's ranked 50th in the world and he'd be like, hell yeah, I want to play.
Like if you get inside the top 50, you get to submit a ballot for the team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't, and even if that doesn't count, even if it's something that the captain just takes into consideration to see, because listen, you say what you want. I'm sorry, Zach Johnson is not watching all those guys play, and he's taking word of mouth. And so, I just,
you know what I think you should do? This is what I think you should do. I think you should take 12 Corn Ferry dudes, the top 12 Corn Ferry dudes over there, and say if you win, you all get PGA Tour cards.
Oh, bro, are you kidding me?
They would go beat that ass. You kidding me? Those guys would be so fired up. And all they do is make birdies. Like it's like birdie bonanza everywhere they go. Take 12 Corn Ferry guys and say, if you win, only when we go over there. When we go over there, take 12 Corn Ferry guys. If you win, you get a tour card. How about that?
I'm all for it.
Let's go.
I say,
two full years of exemptions.
That's the whole reason that you and I were talking about. We didn't mind Justin Thomas getting. He was the only one begging to be on the team. Nobody else was begging to be on the team.
Yeah.
Like take the people that want to be there.
Yep.
So not the guys like Xander that is going to take 5 weeks off and just mail it in and be like, I'll just show up and play. I'll be good.
Yep. All right. Well, Ben, appreciate it. Guys, thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll be back on a little bit more regular basis. So this is episode 297 of the Dad by Golf Pod, and we are always
stroking.